like Professor Rahman says, I have an uphill task today to try to kind of explain to you in 20 minutes what Sharia is and isn't. And kind of the approach, when I'm talking about Sharia, because it's my dissertation topic and I don't want to explain my whole dissertation to you, is essentially to give you the one central idea that will help you interpret why there is so much confusion and so much exploitation of both the term Sharia and what Sharia actually means. And this confusion, it's important to remember, is present not simply in Western understandings of Sharia, but also among Muslims, because it's a conflation that is often exploited politically to gain legitimacy for different kinds of governments, for different kinds of judicial systems around the world. So quite literally, the term Sharia means the way to water. But in terms of its meaning, it has both a symbolic and a jurisprudential meaning for Muslims. In symbolic terms, Sharia essentially means the collective effort of Muslims to discern what the divine will is. It's their way to attempt to discover what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants from human beings. Okay? That is and in that sense, it is the symbolic glue that brings the faith community, the Muslim faith community or ummah together. This is, the crucial symbolic meaning of Sharia. In jurisprudential terms, and most of the rest of my talk is going to talk about what it means in jurisprudential terms, it means something quite different. But this symbolic meaning is at the root of, for example, you'll routinely see surveys that'll ask Muslims, well, do you support Sharia? Do you believe in Sharia? Do you think Sharia should be the only law that you follow? As a practicing Muslim, if you believe in this symbolic meaning of Sharia as that effort, you simply cannot answer no to that question, because that is part of our profession of faith, that the collective effort of Muslims, of our community to discern what God wants from us is what Sharia stands for. Now, there's this one kind of unifying aspect of Sharia, and the other aspect of Sharia is essentially the jurisprudential aspect, which points to precise ways and sciences of fiqh, of jurisprudence, that use specific sources, both divine sources and human sources, to come to jurisprudential conclusions. Now, this part of Sharia, the jurisprudential part of Sharia, is an area in which there is much diversity and much dissent in the Muslim world. Since the classical age of Islam, we have had several schools of thought. Within Sunni theology, obviously, there are 4 major schools of thought: the Hanafi, the Maliki, the Hanbali, and the Shafi'i. Within Shia jurisprudence, there are Jafri and Zaydi schools of thought, and as well as others. But that diversity has been part of the jurisprudential aspect of Sharia. This conflation between these two is used often, to kind of get Muslims to get on board with whatever Sharia a particular government or a particular group is espousing. And it's really kind of crucial to remember how this conflation is navigated both within Muslim societies where Sharia initiatives are present, and also within the West where Sharia initiatives are increasingly common as part of minority rights and demands for accommodation from Western governments. Now, within the jurisprudential aspect, there are 4 primary sources of Sharia law. 2 of these are divine sources, the Quran and the Sunnah, and the other 2 are called, the human sources, which are essentially ijtihad and qiyas. One of them is qiyas essentially means syllogistic reasoning, and for those of you who are lawyers will be familiar, it's very common in legal theory where you use analogy from one case to another to extrapolate whether the rule applies in different cases. And ijtihad essentially stands for individual reason or the ability to look at the sources and come at a legal conclusion.
Support for Voices and Visions comes from the Social Science Research Council, the SSRC, leading innovation in the social sciences and educating the next generation of social science researchers.